Tonight, fearing for their children's lives. A family tells STV News of living in horrendous, damp and mouldy conditions for almost a decade.
Is it going to take one of the kids to die or catch something really serious before they'll pull their finger out?
Also making the headlines, weather warnings for snow and ice in the Central Belt as engineers battle to restore power on Shetland.
In sport, no one is safe. Michael Beale issues a transfer window warning to his players ahead of his first competitive match in charge of Rangers. And Tremendous, the festive fundraiser lighting up Glasgow's south side.
I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. A family has told STV how they fear for their children's lives after living in horrendous damp and mould for almost a decade. Alistair Stewart and Sarah Martin live in a council flat in Edinburgh. They say the squalid conditions have worsened the children's asthma and left their 4-year-old with a constant hacking cough.
It comes just a month after prolonged exposure to mould was found to have caused the death of a 2-year-old boy in Rochdale in England, shining a light on poor social housing conditions. Caroline Lewis has more.
Walls covered in mould, floorboards decaying. The family have ripped up carpets, their clothes now stored in boxes, but nothing keeps the damp at bay.
You can't describe it day to day because with the way that we are, we don't have good days. All my days are bad. I know we can't do it, but at some time I'd rather be homeless than live in this. It's diabolical.
Sarah and Alistair have lived in this house in Edinburgh with their 4 children for 10 years. But instead of comfort, they fear the house is killing them.
The 3 older ones have got asthma and they've got worse. I had pneumonia in June this year. My partner's had to go for an x-ray because his chest isn't sounding right. So it's affecting all our health.
What's your biggest fear as a parent if kids stay?
Them dying. That's my biggest fear.
Just days ago, an ambulance was called when their eldest son was struggling to breathe. Paramedics noted the conditions he was living in. It comes just 1 month after a coroner ruled 2-year-old Awab Ishaq died from prolonged exposure to mould. 4-year-old Riley now constantly coughs. Alistair says he's been in constant contact with the council, but despite several surveys and investigations, nothing has changed.
Is it going to take one of the kids to die or catch something really serious before they'll pull their finger out?
When the condition of Scotland's housing was last looked at in 2019, it found that 1 in 10 homes had damp and mould. But since the pandemic, the number of people living in social housing reaching out for help due to the condition of their housing has risen by 20%. It's thought that could get worse this winter as people struggle to heat their homes.
In my role as a GP, I have seen people who are getting problems with their asthma and with other lung conditions because of the damp. I'm also seeing sort of people, especially children, who are getting lots and lots of chest infections. It's hard to know whether the mould and the damp is directly a cause, but certainly living in those conditions is putting them at increased risk.
In a statement, Edinburgh Council said, "We've identified work which needs to be carried out and repairs are being arranged. We're fully committed to working with tenants to resolve these issues as soon as possible and we'll keep them informed." But repairing the damage won't be a quick fix. And each day, Alistair, Sarah and their family stay in the house. They continue to pay the price. Caroline Lewis, STV News.
With temperatures set to plunge across the Central Belt in the coming days, a weather warning for snow and ice has been issued for Friday. It comes as a major operation to restore power to thousands of homes in Shetland is continuing tonight.
Teams of engineers have been arriving from the mainland throughout the day after the severe weather badly damaged cables and a major incident was declared. Power companies are warning some could be cut off until the end of the week. Louise Hosey reports.
The arrival of some much-needed reinforcements. Teams of engineers were deployed to Shetland from the mainland this morning. The 15 Powerline crews and 125 extra engineers are part of a now mammoth effort to restore power to nearly 3,000 homes after heavy snow and ice damaged overhead cables. Although many islanders are well used to dealing with bad weather, this time around it feels particularly severe.
No heating, got no hot water, we got none to cook on really apart from the fire. The house is cold, and it's been a tough couple of days.
I have never seen damage like I've seen with this. It was like an earthquake. The hydro poles were just lying like drunken soldiers all over the place.
It was really, really scary to hear this creaking sounds and then this cracking and then this
snap. Yeah.
And they snapped.
For many, the power cuts have meant it's back to basics.
You think you'll do something and then you realise that there's no power. And we're trying to cut down on hot water. You know, you worry about folk that depend on carers. The folk with young bairns, it's not good for
It's not
them.
easy.
Oh, no.
Police are advising people to remain at home, but a number of community halls are opening their doors to help the most vulnerable.
Everybody's been so good at offering up their time, their food, everything. So we appreciate it. We're trying our best just to be here for everybody and work together.
SSEN says it hopes its bolstered presence on Shetland will help speed up the urgent repair work. But given the scale of the damage and further gales, snow and ice forecast, for some this may not be until Friday. Until then, all they can do is hunker down and hold tight.
Louise Hosey reporting there. Now, postal workers were back on picket lines across Scotland today as their dispute with Royal Mail rumbles on. The Communication Workers Union says it's fighting for better pay and conditions to deliver an important public service.
With less than a fortnight until Christmas, it's having a large impact on businesses at a crucial time of year for trade. Another day of action is planned for tomorrow, with further strike days due next Friday and on Christmas Eve. Kay Nicholson has more.
Staff at this skincare company in Wishaw are busy preparing Christmas orders, but the postal strikes are having a knock-on impact.
We've also had to create a backup logistics company, which we didn't have before because we dealt with Royal Mail, to ensure that we could at least get those orders out. The challenge with that is it's then more costly, more time consuming, and it just puts additional pressure on, everyone that works here, and also additional pressure on our customers because a lot of what we supply is Christmas gifts, and the last thing you want is Santa not turning up.
With strikes continuing this week, people are being warned against a last-minute trip to the post office.
If you're hoping to send cards in time for Christmas, then you've already missed the deadline for sending by second class. But you still have until Friday to post first class for guaranteed delivery before next weekend.
Thank you.
The threat of disruption isn't phasing this customer though.
People don't go on strike because they want to. They go on strike because they're experiencing hardship. And their employers who have shareholders to answer to are concerned only with making as much profit as possible. They're not concerned to care for their workers in terms of their welfare, their quality of life, their pay.
Temperatures were below freezing at picket lines across the country today, but workers were keeping their spirits up, determined to get their points across.
They've offered us what they tell us is 9%, but it works out about 7.5%. For a year and a half, but the terms and conditions are terrible. We have to stand up for ourselves. You see it right across the country. Barristers, RMT, the GMB, everybody's out on strike, so we're not the only ones.
We're willing to negotiate, we're willing to talk, we don't want to be here. We'd rather be in there sorting customers' mail, we'd rather be out in the streets delivering customers' mail, especially at Christmas time. But the company are not too happy to get around the negotiating table and offer us a decent deal.
Royal Mail says it's shared a best and final offer for pay and change. It says it's doing what it can to minimise delays during the action.
500 years in Royal Mail. First time in history been strike at Christmas. We don't want to get strike at Christmas, we want to be at work. The strike's not only about postal workers today, it's postal workers of the future.
And hundreds are expected to gather for a rally outside the Scottish Parliament tomorrow, ahead of further strikes on the 23rd and 24th of December. Kay Nicholson, STV News.
Staying with strikes and disruption in Scotland's railways continued today as Network Rail workers from the RMT union staged their second day of walkouts over pay and conditions.
Only 12 ScotRail services were running today in Fife, the Central Belt and the Borders. It comes as the train drivers' union ASLEF is now balloting its Avanti West Coast members on industrial action. Well, our political reporter Laura Alderman joins us now from Haymarket Station in Edinburgh. Laura.
Yes, normally at this time of night, this station would be buzzing with travellers going home or going out for the night. But tonight, inside, it's looking completely deserted. And the people we have seen going in, no doubt rushing for what might be the last train of the night. The services are due to stop in about 20 minutes' time at 6:30. And while we've been standing here, I have noticed the bus station just over my shoulder here is looking incredibly busy, perhaps signalling that other people are taking alternative routes of transport home tonight. But as you mentioned, yes, this is day 2 in a set of strike by Network Rail members of the RMT union, and there are more strikes planned as well. On Friday, they'll stage another 48-hour walkout, then followed by a walkout on the 24th to the 27th of December, and then again in January on the 3rd, 4th, 6th and 7th. Tomorrow, there's no strikes, but ScotRail say tonight that it's too complex to rewrite the timetable, so instead the same timetable will be running tomorrow, a skeleton service, they said. Those 12 services in the Central Belt, Fife and the Borders. The advice from them is the same that we've heard throughout this year concerning the strikes, which is to plan and check your journey in advance or make alternative arrangements, perhaps avoiding train travel altogether.
All right, Laura, with the very latest, thanks very much for that.
The strike set the agenda for the final Prime Minister's questions of this year, with both Labour and the SNP criticising the UK government for failing to take part in pay talks. Well, live now to our Westminster editor, Catherine Sampson. And Catherine, Rishi Sunak coming under a lot of pressure over this.
Yes, and today we heard Keir Starmer accusing the Prime Minister of being in hibernation over strike action, not doing enough to resolve these disputes. He denies this, and Rishi Sunak accused Keir Starmer of being weak, not standing up to the unions. Now, there's added pressure in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, where tomorrow nurses are due to walk out. Now, in Scotland, the situation is different. Some nurses and health workers from 2 unions voted to accept an increased pay offers from the Scottish Government, 7.5%. And that's something that was brought up by the SNP's new Westminster leader in the Chamber earlier.
A pay settlement has been reached and strike action averted. By stark contrast, the UK Health Secretary appears completely unwilling to negotiate with unions on pay, and strike action is very much still on the table. So may I ask the Prime Minister, when will he see the error of his ways and follow the Scottish Government's lead?
I'm glad the UK Government was able to provide £1.5 billion in extra funding to the Scottish Government for public services. The Health Secretary and other ministers have engaged fully, not just with the unions, but with an independent pay-setting process, which takes the politics out of the process and ensures that we can meet those independent requirements with a fair pay deal.
Well, a meeting of the UK Government's Emergency Cobra Committee also took place this morning. Ministers are planning contingencies, really, for the fallout from these strikes in transport and other areas over the next few weeks. And it's against this backdrop of widespread industrial action that the Scottish Government is due to set out its budget plans. That's going to happen tomorrow. Of course, Scottish Government has significant tax powers, devolved tax powers, and significant decisions to make about whether it wants to use them to increase revenue for public services.
Catherine at Westminster, thank you.
Now, hundreds of residents in Falkirk villages who've been paying extortionate power bills after their homes were fitted with the wrong type of heating system by their local authority are starting to have them replaced. Many tenants told STV News they were being driven into debt and poverty long before the cost of living crisis started to bite.
An investigation by Scottish Power discovered that some of the affected homes were burning energy at 3 times the national average rate. It's a story our reporter Courtney Cameron has been following for years, and she's live now in South Alloa tonight with the latest.
Yes, well, high power bills is certainly a problem that we're all facing at the moment. But for homes like this one in Falkirk and the surrounding areas, it's been a problem for much longer. Over a decade ago, Falkirk Council installed Thermoflow wet electric heating systems in over 800 properties. It was a system at the time it thought would be affordable for tenants living in areas where there was no mains gas supply. But it soon emerged hundreds of people were facing financial difficulties trying to keep up the payments on their prepayment meters. A community campaign to have the systems replaced was launched when families started complaining of having to make that choice between heating their homes or feeding their families. Well, I'm live tonight in Mary Quinn's house, who you may remember from one of my previous reports. Mary was paying up to £50 a day to try and keep her house warm. She's been one of the first to have her heating system replaced. So Mary, tell us how things are at the moment for you.
Yeah, it's a lot better having a new heating system put in. I've got running hot water all the time, and the heating is amazing just throughout the house. It's the same temperature all the time, so we're not sitting freezing cold.
You said before your bills were up to £50 a day. Now, what are you looking at now?
Roughly about up to £10 a day, which seems a lot, but it's a lot cheaper than what I was paying. So yeah, I'm looking forward to living a normal life as sort of such.
And when you say living a normal life, Mary, just tell us what life was like before for you, before this system was replaced.
It was just so hard. I was living just to feed the meter. I was living off food banks. It was just going to bed every night wondering where the next meal was coming from, where I was going to get money to put in the meter for heating, a hot bath. Yeah, it's just good to live like a normal life now.
So a real sense of relief running up to Christmas then, Mary?
Yeah, definitely. So looking forward to spending it with my family.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us live tonight, Mary. Well, once again, Falkirk Council declined to answer any of my questions on camera, but what they did say was that 27 properties have now had their heating systems replaced with these air source heat pumps, which the council hopes will be more affordable and eco-friendly for the properties. The next phase of replacement is due to take place at the start of next year, but it looks like that could roll on to 2024.
Courtney, thank you.
Now, other stories now, and the former SNP MP Natalie McGarry has been given permission to appeal her conviction for embezzlement. McGarry was given a 2-year sentence in July after being found guilty of stealing more than £24,000 while treasurer of a pro-independence group and a regional association of the SNP.
There's been a spike in hospitalisations due to the flu and COVID-19. An average of 734 patients were in hospital with COVID last week. That's an 18% increase on the week before. Health Secretary Hamza Yousaf is urging everyone to get vaccinated.
Care experienced young people were treated to a performance of Edinburgh's Christmas Carol this afternoon. As well as getting to meet the cast afterwards, they were also joined by the First Minister for the show. They say the theatre is something they rarely get the opportunity to experience.
I tell you what, it was brilliant. Suggest Stories come down, and I've got to say it was one of the best shows I've seen.
It was amazing. Everyone was just amazing. Acting as different people and the same people. It was just the best hanging ever.
Now, if you live in the south side of Glasgow, you may have seen someone dressed up as a Christmas tree is in the middle of a 24-hour dance-a-thon. Kate Deeming, a Glasgow community activist, is aiming to spread some festive cheer and raise money for warm banks in Pollokshields. Polly Bartlett joined her for a dance.
Rocking around the Christmas tree.
Rocking around the south side, this dancing Christmas tree is sprucing up spirits in Glasgow.
I feel good, perky. Feel like I'm pacing myself. It's a marathon.
It's not a sprint. I mean, I'm granted, by hour 23, I'm going to be a bit of like, disco. You know, last thing we want is an injured Christmas tree. Exactly. It would totally kill the vibe.
Kate will be dancing through a cold and frosty night, toe tapping for 24 hours. She's raising money for warm banks in Pollokshields.
I just have really good support from across the community. So people have been stopping by even in these 3 hours. As I said, give me sandwiches and Tunnings tea cakes and tea. I have people who said, you know, they're coming late, like at 1 o'clock in the morning. Like throughout the night, people are going to be popping by.
Those living in the community she's raising money for are delighted too. And it seems they also want a chance to dance.
Yeah, he was jumping out the car. He goes, "What's that, Daddy?" You know, he thought it was Santa, but then he noticed a Christmas tree lady. So he got quite happy. Was it good? Yeah, there he was, his answer.
We all know that some people struggle to keep their houses warm, some people struggle to get food on their table, and Kate has done so many things for charity in this respect, looking out for the neighbours, for the community. So we should all be a bit more like Kate. So.
Even I couldn't resist joining in for a Christmas collaboration. This porcupine really is spreading a whole lot of festive positivity. Polly Bartlett, STV News, Glasgow.
Stop it, Ronnie.
I have nothing to say.
That's cheered us up anyway.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Rangers manager Michael Beale insists no player is safe as he heads towards his first transfer window in charge. The Ibrox club get the Premiership restart underway tomorrow night at home to Hibs, and Beale insists he's more ready than ever to get started.
Right outside the left, up to the next flat, back in. Hey, everybody, one after the other. Ready? Play.
He's had his first 2 weeks on the training ground, but now it's crunch time for Michael Beale. His first competitive match in the Ibrox dugout in the top job just 24 hours away as he looks to revive Rangers' title challenge.
I think we're ready to go. I think the last 2 weeks have been a lot of frustration that we've waited for it, certainly on my part as well. But I see a group that's chomping at the bit to get started tomorrow night. I think if you ask every manager, we'd all want more time on the training pitch and more time with the group. But on a personal level, I feel overly ready for the game, and I can't wait for tomorrow night. I think it's going to be a hugely proud moment for me, but it's more important that the fans and the players are aligned and we put on a strong performance at home at Ibrox.
With the transfer window set to open in just over 2 weeks' time, Beale hopes to add to the squad and had this message for his current crop of players.
No one's safe because I don't want to bring any fillers into the squad. I only want to bring people in that can start in the first 11. So I'll have my own opinion on that, which might differ from maybe the opinions 1 or 2 months ago. It's important I give everybody an opportunity to show, but it's certainly I want to strengthen the squad, and in every single position I think we can improve the squad.
The Rangers boss confirmed Leon King is close to signing a new deal, as is one other senior player.
Yeah, there's positive signs on that. I think you hear something in the next couple of days with him and one other player as well signing new deals, which I think is really important for the club. I think when you look at the squad, we've got some players under 25 or 25 and below that are really important to the future in terms of what we want to do.
Connor Goldson and Ben Davies are back training, but tomorrow's visit of Hibs could come too soon for the defensive duo. To rugby, and ahead of Glasgow Warriors' European clash with Perpignan, defence coach Peter Murchie admits that they must be more ruthless if they want to qualify for the next round. Franco Smith's side got their Challenge Cup campaign off to a positive start with a win away to Bath, but Murchie says improvements are needed.
There's always fix-ups from the game, both sides, where it's defence, attack, just looking to be more ruthless, to be honest, like whether it's ball in hand or defensively. We still feel a couple of the ones they did get we could have stopped as well, so we're always looking to try and push on and get better, so we need to do that this weekend.
Finally tonight, Grand National winning trainer Lucinda Russell believes that she could have another entry winner on her hands. Corach Rambler is in the training for the April version of the National, and their high hopes they could follow in 2017 winners Hooves won for Arthur in claiming one of the biggest prizes in racing. Here's Stephanie Daly.
Frosty under hoof,
But the wintry conditions don't get in the way of training here at Lucinda Russell's Kinross Yard. The top trainer guided One for Arthur to Grand National glory 5 years ago. Now Lucinda and partner, former jockey Peter Scudamore, believe there could be another entry winner at the stables.
So we all know about One for Arthur's huge success, but there's another potential star waiting in the wings, isn't there?
There is, yeah. In the same box, One for Arthur's box, Carrick Rambler's box. This is Carrick Rambler. And he won at the Cheltenham Festival last year. And we think he's got all the attributes to go on and run in the Grand National.
Here's hoping. How do you think he's going to get on then?
Look, it's very nerve-wracking. He's amongst the favourites for it. I sometimes joke about things, but when I'm with him, you get very serious. You get very attached to these horses. And he has all the attributes to win the Grand National.
Oh, and he deserves a treat then. There you go, Cara.
With dedicated trainers come dedicated stable staff and jockeys. Conor McCann has fought back from a horror fall earlier this year.
Horse done a rotational fall with me and broke 2 vertebrae in my neck, 3 in my back. I broke a couple of ribs in my leg as well.
And look at you now, we're in December. What a remarkable recovery. We've seen you back on the horse. How determined were you to get back to being a jockey again?
Well, I've had a few winners before the falls, so I just wanted to, have success again.
And success is something Lucinda Russell and her team are aiming for over a busy festive period and an exciting new year ahead. Stephanie Daly, STV News.
And hopefully I won't be this horse next week. Bye for now.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
He's proud of that. Sean, how's the weather?
Things are hotting up. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, we're still in the grip of this icy weather. What a stunning day, though. A beautiful, icy winter wonderland across much of Renfrewshire, Glasgow, Dumbartonshire, parts of North Ayrshire after the fog we had through much of yesterday, through the night as well, coating the plants, the trees and the cobwebs in that rhyming ice. Why, we've had that beautiful icy landscape through today in that sunshine. Lots of sunshine, of course, through today. Lots of clear skies around tonight. It is dry. It's very cold overnight. Again, the risk of some mist and fog patches developing, especially more central, southwestern areas. Temperatures again possibly down to about -10 in the likes of Lanark. Possibility of a few little wintry showers coming into the far northwest around Fort William, Mull, Col, Tiree. Risk still of a few showers here into tomorrow. Where we do see showers, of course, we'll have some icy patches. Temperatures probably in the Hebrides tomorrow, though, up to highs of 6 degrees, but many of us staying very similar to today, staying cold, frosty through the day, but plenty of crisp sunshine. Friday, we're really going to have to watch out, though, because we could get a spell of snow, even right down to low levels for a good few hours. So that could give us some travel disruption on Friday, but that should then turn back to rain and sleet as we head through the weekends. Milder air comes in. So chilly over the next couple of days. That risk of snow for a time on Friday, extremely mild on Monday before the colder air returns. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Wrap up and stay warm. Well, that's all from us tonight.
From all of us here, thanks for watching. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.